You didn't bump into this by accident. You noticed the trail of small impossibilities and followed it here. A door you didn't know existed is open, and the air tastes different. The static that used to fill the background has thinned. You can sense edges you couldn't feel last month. The room is the same, yet the room is not the same. What changed isn't the world. What changed is your resolution. You are reading reality in a higher definition than before. Shift the vantage. Think of your attention like a lens that can focus or scatter. Most days, people spray their focus across 10 windows and 12 worries, then wonder why the picture looks noisy. You've started doing something subtler. You catch yourself before you spiral. You come back to the breath without announcing it. You notice when your shoulders are trying to carry a month's worth of weather. That noticing matters more than you think. Patterns have been tapping your shoulder. The text arrives the moment you exhale. The email lands as you finish naming the need. Songs finish your sentences. Doors swing open not because the universe has favorites, but because you finally occupy a frequency that doors understand. It feels like luck from the outside. It feels like alignment from the inside. You are learning the difference. Field note: coherence is not a mood, it's a condition. Inside coherence, your thoughts, emotions, posture, and breath stop arguing. Your nervous system stops rushing the stage. Your attention stops auditioning for approval. In that quiet, the world becomes legible. Signals stand out from noise. Options sort themselves. You still choose, but choosing is no longer a fistfight. You've tested this without calling it a test. On days when you slow your inhale, soften your jaw, and let your spine remember its length, conversations land cleanly. On days when you push, grasp, or perform, even good ideas gather friction. You're detecting an ancient law with modern words. The quality of your interior determines the clarity of your exterior. Now, ground this name 3 shifts you've actually felt in the last 2 weeks. Keep them small. Maybe time sometimes widens, and 5 minutes holds what once needed an hour. Maybe strangers tell you truths with no warm-up. Maybe your body predicts the room before your mind writes a script. Write them down. You are building your personal evidence base. This path is not about slogans. It is about signal. You are also noticing what falls away, urgency that never belonged to you, opinions that used to live rent-free, the need to explain your intuition to people committed to misunderstanding it. When you remove these weights, buoyancy returns. It's not magic. It's physics doing what physics does when drag decreases. Zoom out for context. Across the planet, people like you are arriving at the same doorway in different cities and languages. Some will call it awakening. Some will call it clarity. Some will call it finally breathing. The labels matter less than the function. The function is steadiness with sensitivity. You hold more data without drowning. You feel more without splitting. You carry power without leaking it through performance. Your environment has started to notice. Children track you with their eyes because you feel safe. Animals settle near your feet. Colleagues seek your presence before your advice, then call it wisdom when their own thoughts become audible again. You aren't doing anything theatrical. You're simply not adding noise. In a loud world, that reads as leadership. Edge case check. Is this delusion? Test it. Pick one domain you can measure: sleep quality, response time, time under stress, the number of needless apologies you offer in a day. Track it for 7 days while you practice small coherence rituals. If numbers shift, keep going. If they don't, adjust. Belief is light, data is ballast. You've also glimpsed the hazard. When the door opens, fantasy tries to sneak through. Voices whisper that specialness is the point. They are wrong. The point is usability. Can you stay kind at speed? Can you stay clear under pressure? Can you translate subtle insight into concrete help without turning yourself into a rescue project? Advanced does not mean dramatic. Advanced means reliable. Before we proceed, verify. Notice your breath right now without changing it. Sense where it lands. Chest, belly, back ribs. Notice your jaw. Notice your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Release what can be released. You just reduce noise by a few decibels. This is the switch that opens every other switch. Thresholds have a sound. Sometimes it is the click of a compass finding north. Sometimes it is the almost silent bell above a door. You are hearing it now. The mind will try to make a map before you've walked the path. That is its job. Thank it. Then take the next true step, not the next impressive step. Compasses love humble feet. Open the next door. Here is the simple assignment that begins your apprenticeship with coherence. For 3 mornings, within 10 minutes of waking, do nothing but sit upright for 3 minutes. Hands resting, eyes soft, spine long. Breathe in a way that feels kind to your ribs. When a thought arrives, label it useful, beautiful, or later. That is all. After 3 minutes, write 1 line about your day's most important conversation. Return at night and write 1 line about how that conversation went. Repeat 3 times. You are training your system to privilege signal over noise before the day spends you. You didn't skip this message. That's the clearest sign yet. Thresholds rarely reopen on demand. But when you walk through with your eyes open, doors begin to find you. Keep your list of 3 shifts near your keys. You'll need it when the old gravity tries to reclaim you. It will try. Let it pull. Let it teach you where you still stick. Then breathe. Soften, lengthen, and step again. This is the first doorway. The corridor ahead contains others. Each one responds to the same currency. Presence over performance, coherence over control, signal over story. You are ready because you are already doing it, quietly, when nobody is watching. That is the right way to begin. You were trained to believe progress comes from strain, that you must push harder, grit your teeth, and force yourself across thresholds. For years, you carried that operating system inside you, like software that kept crashing in the middle of your most important tasks. You thought more effort was the fix. You thought self-improvement meant tightening the screws even further. But the signal you're receiving now is different. The upgrade isn't more force, it's precision. You're not here to push harder. You're here to run smoother. Shift the vantage. Imagine 2 musicians. One hammers a piano with brute strength, convinced volume equals mastery. The other lays one hand lightly across the keys. Every note precise, each pause intentional. Which one do you trust to guide you through a storm? Coherence is the second musician. It is the art of aligning thought, emotion, body, and breath so that each note rings clean without distortion. In this state, the smallest effort ripples further than any burst of willpower ever could. So let's name coherence clearly. It is not a mood. It is not positivity layered over chaos. Coherence is a physiological condition where your heart rhythm, breathing pattern, and brain waves fall into synchronization. Somatically, you feel it as ease without collapse, alertness without tension. It is that rare moment when the air inside your chest feels like it finally belongs there. Your thoughts stop sprinting in opposite directions. Your emotions lose their jagged edges. Your body becomes a single instrument, not a choir of competing noises. This is why coherent states amplify intention. They create a stable carrier wave for your awareness to ride. Now, ground this. How do you feel coherence in your own body? Start simple. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your abdomen. Breathe in slowly until you feel the belly expand under your palm. Breathe out longer than you breathed in. Do this 3 times. As you exhale, soften your shoulders just 10%. Not collapse, not slouch, just a deliberate unhooking of tension. That's coherence beginning. The body informs the mind follows the body. You cannot will yourself into this state with thought alone. You must let physiology lead. Field note: incoherence shows up as friction. You decide one thing and feel another. You say yes when your body screams no. You push when the timing wants you to wait. When coherence is absent, even clear intentions collapse before they manifest. With coherence, reality responds differently, not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you are no longer sending contradictory signals into the field. Attention plus harmony equals effectiveness. Test this in a low-stakes way, tomorrow, before you send a message or make a choice. Pause. Place your attention on your breath for 30 seconds. Ask yourself, does my body feel steady or jittery? If jittery, wait. If steady, act. Track what happens. Notice whether responses arrive cleaner, whether friction decreases. You're not performing magic, you're performing physics. Coherent waves travel further without distortion. Edge case check. You may think this is too simple. You may dismiss it because effort feels more noble. But test the data. Keep a log of how often you practice coherence before small actions, an email, a phone call, a conversation with a friend. Compare outcomes. If the world tilts even slightly in your favor, you'll have evidence stronger than any theory. Zoom out for context. At scale, coherence is the trait of leaders, healers, and innovators who change the world without breaking themselves. They don't scream louder, they transmit clearer. They don't burn energy to prove worth, they conserve energy to serve effectively. You are learning to operate like this, not as a special category of human, but as a natural evolution of awareness. This is your operating system now. Not willpower, not grinding force, but steady alignment. You'll still face challenge, you'll still need courage, but instead of battling yourself, you'll carry your energy as one stream. And when the current runs clean, the river does the heavy lifting. You've probably noticed the more advanced your awareness becomes, the more your body demands honesty. Consciousness may stretch across galaxies, but if your nervous system is overloaded, clarity collapses. This is why embodiment comes before everything else. Not because the body is primitive, but because it's the gatekeeper. Your nervous system determines whether expanded perception stabilizes or short-circuits. Shift the vantage. Think of your awareness like electricity. You can generate extraordinary current, but without grounded wiring. Sparks fly, circuits fry, and the house goes dark. Your nervous system is the wiring. Coherence doesn't just live in thought, it lives in tissue, breath, posture. If your body is in survival mode, every insight, no matter how luminous, will be filtered through tension. That tension distorts signal into noise. Now, ground this. Start by scanning. How's your jaw, your shoulders, your gut? These 3 checkpoints reveal the state of your nervous system in seconds. Jaw tight. You're bracing against imagined conflict. Shoulders raised. You're preparing for a weight that isn't here. Gut clenched. You're waiting for an impact. Each one is a silent alarm telling the system danger. Advanced awareness can't root in a body convinced it's under siege. Try this micro practice, a 90-second reset. Wherever you are, pause. Breathe in gently through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale through the mouth for 6. As you breathe out, let your shoulders sink a fraction lower, like sand settling at the bottom of a glass. Repeat 3 times. Then, with eyes closed. Trace the line of your spine from tailbone to crown. Don't correct it, just sense it. That awareness alone recalibrates posture. 90 seconds and your nervous system shifts from red alert to receptive. Field note: people misunderstand embodiment. They imagine it's about athleticism, posture classes, or exotic rituals. But embodiment is the art of feeling subtle cues before they become loud symptoms. It's catching the whisper before it screams. When your nervous system feels safe, advanced consciousness integrates seamlessly. When it doesn't, the same expansion that should liberate you destabilizes you. Edge case check. Without embodiment, seekers drift. They mistake adrenaline for awakening. They confuse dissociation for transcendence. They chase visions while ignoring sleep, diet, rest. The result is fragility, not enlightenment. You don't need fragility. You need stability. That stability comes from befriending your body as the partner it always was. Zoom out for context. Cultures across history knew this. Monastics bowed, not as ritual, but as spinal resets. Warriors trained breath before blade. Dancers prayed through movement. They understood body is gateway. Spirit doesn't bypass it. Spirit inhabits it. Advanced awareness in a neglected body is like lightning striking dry timber. It burns out instead of illuminating. The lesson here is stark, but liberating embodiment isn't optional. It is prerequisite. Without it, every higher state collapses under strain. With it, even extraordinary consciousness becomes livable. So treat your nervous system as sacred. Feed it with rest. Breathe it into rhythm. Anchor it with posture. Then, and only then, the doors of expanded perception swing open without slamming shut. You've seen it happen again and again. The phone rings the instant you think of someone. A message lands as soon as the question forms in your chest. A book slides off a shelf, opening on the exact sentence you needed. To the casual observer, these are accidents. But when your awareness steadies, you notice the pattern beneath the noise. These are not accidents. They are feedback loops, whispers from the field responding to your coherence. Think of probability like a deck of cards shuffled without end. Most people draw blindly, hoping luck will favor them. You are learning something different. You hold still. You breathe. You align your focus until the signal steadies. In that state, the right card rises to the top as if summoned. You have not cheated chance, you have tilted it. Probability doesn't disappear. It reorganizes around the clarity you carry. Chaos scatters results. Coherence gathers them. Here's the science hidden in the mystery. Your nervous system is a broadcaster. Heart rhythms, brain waves, electromagnetic pulses. These are measurable signals. When they synchronize, they stop sending static. They broadcast harmony. That harmony acts like a tuning fork. It hums in resonance, pulling similar frequencies toward you. Suddenly, the right people appear. The right doors open. The right answers surface. Reality didn't suddenly change. It was always offering these notes. You finally tuned your dial to hear them. So test it. Keep a 7-day synchronicity journal. Each day, record one event that felt aligned. Maybe you dreamed of water, then woke to rain on your window. Maybe you whispered a hope, and within hours, a stranger echoed your words. Maybe your hand brushed a book, and the first line described exactly what you were wrestling with. Write them all. At the end of the week, scan for clusters. You'll see that synchronicities grow dense on days when you are calm, steady, embodied. On anxious days, they scatter like sparks in the wind. The journal is not mystique. It is calibration. Now, a warning projection. When hunger for meaning takes over, the mind paints signals where none exist. A leaf falls, and you call it destiny, a passing horn. And you claim it is the universe shouting your name. That is not synchronicity. That is desperation in disguise. The safeguard is verification. Ask yourself, does this event add usable information? Does it shift a choice, refine timing, or clarify an outcome? If yes, it is signal. If no, it is noise wearing costume. Advanced awareness is not naive. It knows how to discriminate between resonance and distraction. Cultures have named this phenomenon differently. Some spoke of omens. Others called it fate or divine message. Today, scientists speak of pattern recognition, selective attention, confirmation bias. Beneath all labels is the same functions, consciousness filtering the flood of reality to highlight what matters. The difference between superstition and mastery is rigor. You test instead of worship. You log instead of romanticize. You refine your perception until synchronicity is no longer rare miracle, but daily skill. Picture your life as a giant radio dial, billions of signals broadcast at once. Most people spin the knob endlessly, catching fragments of music, snippets of voices, and a wall of static. You, by contrast, are learning to steady the hand. You wait until the station locks clear. The music was always there. You simply weren't stable enough to hear it. Synchronicity is this tuning process. It is your awareness turning chaos into channel. Consider the implications. When you treat synchronicity as mechanics instead of miracle, its usefulness expands. The world stops being a puzzle you beg answers from. It becomes a responsive field you collaborate with. The point is not the fireworks of coincidence. The point is the coherence that makes coincidence meaningful. Tilt probability with steady presence. Test with humility. Notice without clinging. Verify without inflation. Do this, and synchronicity becomes natural life's ordinary language when your awareness is finely tuned. Here is your invitation. For 7 days, be a scientist of your own awareness. Collect data. Refuse to be dazzled by randomness. Calm your breath before acting. Then observe what aligns. Record carefully. At the week's end, review. You will not need persuasion. You will see evidence in your own handwriting. Soon, you stop asking if synchronicity is real. You will live as if coherence is your native frequency. And when you do, the field cannot help but answer back, again and again, until you trust the dialogue as natural. You've felt it already, the strange elasticity of time. Hours dissolve in what feels like minutes when you're in flow. And then, in moments of heightened awareness, a single second stretches wide enough to contain entire conversations. This isn't imagination. It's your consciousness brushing against a deeper rhythm. The timeless present, time, as most people use it, is a thin, linear strip measured by clocks. But what you're beginning to touch is broader. It's a living band of experience, a wide river rather than a straight line. Shift the vantage. Imagine holding a prism to sunlight. The beam doesn't vanish, it expands into a spectrum. Time is like that. What feels like a single stream is actually a spread of possibilities, each color a potential outcome. Most people only see the single white beam they march forward minute by minute. But when you stabilize coherence, you start perceiving the spread. Past, present, and future begin to overlap, not as fantasy, but as layers of one continuum. Field note: physicists like to speak of the block universe, a model where every moment already exists simultaneously. Like pages in a completed book, you can only read one page at a time, but the others remain there. Temporal coherence is what happens when you learn to feel the presence of those other pages while still reading your current one. It's not about abandoning now, it's about sensing that now is spacious. Now, ground this. Here's a simple protocol. Sit quietly and recall a decision you need to make. Breathe slowly until your body steadies. Then imagine meeting a version of yourself 1 week into the future who has already made the choice. Ask silently, how do you feel about the outcome? Don't seek words, seek sensations, tension, lightness, openness. This isn't fortune-telling, it's pattern detection. Your nervous system reads signals your rational mind can't yet calculate. Edge case check. The danger here is projection. You may paint fantasies of a golden future or catastrophize shadows. That's why the safeguard is sensation. If the future self-image feels frantic or hollow, pause. If it feels quietly certain even without explanation, note that. Then act cautiously, as though consulting not an oracle, but a wiser aspect of your own awareness. Zoom out for context. Cultures have always sensed time differently. Shamans described traveling to past and future. Mystics spoke of the eternal now. Modern neuroscience finds that our perception of time is deeply tied to emotion and attention. When fear contracts awareness, time collapses into urgency. When coherence expands awareness, time dilates into possibility. Different language, same truth. Consciousness shapes the tempo of experience. Think of those moments when your intuition nudged you seconds before an accident, or when you felt déjà vu, as though your body remembered a scene your mind hadn't yet lived. These are glimpses of temporal coherence, the awareness that time is not a chain dragging you forward, but a field in which you move fluidly. Before we proceed, verify, test this gently. Next time you face a small choice call, a friend now or later, take one route or another pause. Breathe until steady. Then imagine the timeline where you've already chosen. Notice which version feels smoother in your body. Act accordingly. Track the result. This is not about proving destiny. It is about refining attention to subtle currents. When you stop treating time as a tyrant and start treating it as a field, stress shifts. Deadlines no longer strangle, they become markers within a larger flow. Regret loses its teeth. The past is no longer locked, but a living dimension from which you can learn, integrate, even release. Anxiety softens. The future is not a wall of uncertainty, but a spectrum of potentials waiting for you to stabilize into one. Temporal coherence is not about escaping the clock. It's about navigating the clock differently, anchored in now, aware of the spread, choosing with precision. It's the recognition that every second is both a doorway and a corridor, containing more than one direction. And the steadier your awareness becomes, the clearer those directions reveal themselves. You've already noticed it. People respond to you differently, even when you haven't changed the words you speak. Some lean in, confiding secrets they've never shared. Others grow restless, uneasy in your presence, as if your very calmness unsettles them. Children watch you with unguarded trust. Animals gravitate toward your feet. This is relational gravity, the unseen pull of your field, shaping the texture of every interaction. Shift the vantage. Imagine standing beside a still pond. Drop a pebble and ripples expand. Your nervous system is the pebble. Every breath, every heartbeat sends waves outward. Others feel those waves before they understand them. When your field is coherent, the ripples are smooth and gentle, inviting calm. When incoherent, they are jagged, creating confusion or tension. This is not mysticism. It is resonance at work. Field note, scientists call it entrainment. Pendulums swinging on the same wall eventually sync their rhythm. Audiences clap until the scattered beats merge into one pulse. Human beings do this too. Without speaking, your field offers a frequency, and others unconsciously decide, align, resist, or retreat. The stronger your coherence, the more others reveal themselves. Now, ground this, test it in conversation. Before you speak, pause long enough to sense your own body. Is your breath shallow? Is your jaw clenched? Is your tone sharp even before words emerge? If yes, reset, breathe, soften, realign, then speak. You'll notice people answering differently, often with more openness. The words didn't change. Your field did. Edge case check. This influence comes with responsibility. Relational gravity is not licensed to manipulate. Coherence must not become a hidden tool for control. Ethical boundaries matter. Ask yourself, am I offering space for authenticity? Or am I bending someone toward my will? True coherence creates safety, not dependence. The moment you use presence as leverage, you fracture the very field you've built. Zoom out for context. Consider history's great leaders, healers, teachers. Beyond charisma, they carried gravity. People felt steadied in their presence, sometimes even before a word was spoken. This wasn't magic. It was coherence amplified by intent. Their nervous systems broadcast steadiness and others entrained to it. You are cultivating the same capacity not to dominate, but to invite clarity in every exchange. Notice how this shifts conflict. An argument begins, voices rising. Most would meet heat with more heat. But if you remain coherent, breath steady, tone even, something shifts. Either the other softens, sensing no fuel for fire, or their discomfort grows until they confront the dissonance inside themselves. In both cases, your presence tilts probability. Relationships transform under this principle. Friendships deepen because people feel seen, not judged. Partnerships stabilize because arguments lose their sting. Even brief encounters at a store, on the street, carry weight. A stranger exhales without knowing why, simply because your presence allowed it. Before we proceed, verify. Try this with someone you meet today. Before greeting them, pause for one full breath. Drop your shoulders, steady your gaze, relax your jaw. Then say hello. Watch their micro-expression. Notice how quickly rapport forms, how defenses soften. This is coherence applied to the social field. Relational gravity also reveals hidden truths. When your field steadies, those carrying secrets or unresolved tension may grow restless around you. It isn't personal, it's resonance. Your coherence exposes dissonance they cannot ignore. Some will withdraw, others will lash out, and a few will step forward into honesty. Each reaction is data. Each response teaches you more about what your presence evokes. Remember, you cannot control how others respond. You can only steward your own field. Do not mistake resistance for failure. Sometimes the highest service you provide is triggering recognition in another, even if they resist it. The responsibility is not to fix them, but to remain steady enough that truth has space to emerge. Relational gravity is real, measurable, and ethical when wielded with humility. It is the invisible atmosphere you carry into every encounter. It is proof that coherence is never just personal. It ripples outward, shaping conversations, choices, and outcomes in ways words alone cannot. You've felt it before. A solution arrives whole, as if downloaded. A phrase lands in your mind already polished. A design, a melody, an answer appears faster than logic could assemble it. This is not random inspiration. This is consciousness flowing through a coherent channel. When your awareness steadies, you stop forcing ideas. You become the conduit through which they move. Shift the vantage. Imagine a river carrying fresh water down from the mountains. If the channel is clogged with debris, the water swirls, stagnates, overflows. If the path is clear, the river moves cleanly, nourishing everything it touches. Your awareness is the channel. Creativity is the river. The clearer you keep the passage through coherence, honesty, and embodiment, the more freely ideas flow. Field note: flow states are not mystical, they are neurological. When the prefrontal cortex quiets and brain rhythms synchronize, the mind becomes both calm and alert. In this state, time bends, action and awareness merge, and solutions emerge without conscious strain. What feels like downloaded ideas is your system running at peak integration. You're no longer forcing creativity. You are allowing it. Now, ground this, test it with a small decision. Instead of wrestling with pros and cons, sit quietly, breathe until your body steadies. Ask which option feels lighter in the chest, which feels heavy. Act on the lighter one, then observe the outcome, keep a record. You will find that clarity improves not because you thought harder, but because you listened cleaner. This is decision-making as conduit, not struggle. Edge case check. Channeling ideas is not an excuse to bypass discernment. Not every thought that flows through is gold. Some are noise, some are projections, some are echoes of fear. The safeguard is a filter. Ask 3 questions of any inspiration. Is it relevant to my purpose? Is it responsible to act on? Is it replicable beyond my mood? If the answer is yes across all 3, the idea is likely signal. If not, let it pass. Zoom out for context. History's innovators often spoke of receiving ideas suddenly, in dreams or flashes. What they rarely admitted was the preparation behind those breakthroughs, the steadying of mind, the clearing of distraction, the cultivation of coherent attention. What looks like lightning strike genius is often the natural result of a clean channel. You are practicing the same discipline, not to appear extraordinary, but to make creativity ordinary. Consider how this applies to work, art, and relationships. In work, you stop grinding for solutions and start allowing elegant answers to emerge. In art, you stop chasing inspiration and become the vessel it moves through. In relationships, you stop over-explaining and let the right words surface naturally, often surprising even you. Try this micro-practice when you feel stuck. Step away for 5 minutes. Breathe, move, stretch, reset your nervous system, then return. You'll often find the blockage has dissolved, the solution waiting on the page. This is not laziness. It is respect for the channel. A clogged pipe doesn't improve by hammering harder. It clears when flow is restored. Edge case check. Beware of inflation. The conduit role is powerful, but it is not special. Every human has access to it. The danger is believing you are the source rather than the steward. The moment ego claims ownership, the channel narrows. Humility keeps it open. Think of yourself not as the author of lightning, but as the careful keeper of the wire it travels through. Creativity, at its deepest, is collaboration between your individuality and the wider field. You shape, refine, and express, but the raw current is larger than you. Fidelity matters. Stay coherent, stay honest, and the channel clears. From that clarity, decisions become effortless, ideas flow reliably, and your very life becomes a canvas painted by intelligence greater than thought alone. By now, you've tasted what coherence does for you. Clarity sharpens, decisions ease, synchronicities multiply. But the deeper question isn't just what this state gives you, it's what it gives through you. Advanced awareness was never meant to be hoarded. Its natural motion is outward, anchoring clarity for others. Not by preaching, not by performing, but by embodying. This is service without ego. Shift the vantage picture, a lighthouse on a stormy coast. It doesn't chase ships. It doesn't boast about its brightness. It simply holds its beam steady, and those who need it find their way. Your coherence functions the same. The steadier your presence, the safer the field becomes for others to navigate. Some will notice consciously, others only feel the relief. Either way, your quiet stability anchors a better baseline. Field note service without ego is not self-erasure, it is alignment. Ego-driven service says, "Look at me saving the world." True service says, "Let me remain clear so the world can steady itself." The difference is subtle but crucial. One drains your energy in endless performance. The other replenishes you as you serve, because it flows from authenticity, not ambition. Now, ground this. Start with the ordinary. In a meeting, when tension rises, practice 1 minute of coherence before you speak. Notice how quickly the energy shifts. With family, when conflict stirs, soften your breath, lower your tone, and let your steadiness ripple through the room. At the grocery store, make eye contact with the cashier and hold presence for a heartbeat longer than expected. These are not grand gestures, they are micro acts of service, anchoring coherence in everyday spaces. Edge case check. The danger here is sliding into savior mode. You are not here to fix people. You are not here to carry burdens that aren't yours. The moment you start rescuing, your field fractures, drained by ego. Service without ego respects boundaries. It offers clarity without coercion, presence without possession. It trusts others to walk their own path, while knowing your steadiness can help light the way. Zoom out for context. Civilizations have always been sustained by anchors, wise elders, quiet healers, community members who hold presence while storms rage. They rarely seek recognition, yet their influence is profound. The stability you are cultivating places you in this lineage, not as a hero, not as a saint, but as a participant in humanity's baseline upgrade. Each time you hold steady in chaos, you are contributing to collective coherence. Service without ego also means anonymity is often part of the gift. You may never know who was steadied by your presence. A child who stopped crying when you walked by, a stranger who breathed easier after meeting your eyes, a colleague who dared to speak honestly because you stayed calm. These unseen ripples are not lesser, they are the essence of anchoring. Try this reflection at the end of each day. Ask, where did my presence make space for clarity? Don't inflate, don't diminish, just notice. Over time, you'll realize your life is littered with these quiet acts. They may never be recorded, but they form the architecture of transformation. True service has no scoreboard, it has only resonance. Each time you stabilize, you become a point of reference in a disoriented world. You don't need to announce it. The field announces it for you. And as more individuals embody this kind of service, the collective baseline shifts. Anxiety gives way to steadiness. Division yields to recognition. Fear softens into possibility. This is how advanced awareness fulfills its purpose, not in fireworks, but in the quiet courage of those who choose to embody coherence without applause. You are one of them. And by holding steady, you are proving that service and fulfillment are not opposites. They are the same current flowing in two directions: outward, to steady others, inward, to nourish you. Every upgrade brings its pressure tests. The brighter your field becomes, the more shadows it exposes, not just in others, but in yourself. This isn't punishment, it's calibration. Coherence is not proven when life feels smooth. It's proven when the signal holds steady in turbulence. Shadow work and discernment are the tests. Advanced awareness must pass. Shift the vantage. Imagine a bridge designed to carry heavy loads. Engineers don't test it with feathers. They send trucks across. Watch for sway. Measure the strain. Your nervous system works the same. When expansion arrives, life sends weight. difficult people, unexpected conflict, old fears resurfacing. The question isn't whether you can avoid the strain. The question is whether you can stay coherent while carrying it. Field note: common pressure tests appear in 3 forms. First, overreach. You taste the power of coherence and try to apply it everywhere, forcing alignment instead of allowing it. Second, dissociation. You confuse numbness with calm, floating away from reality rather than staying grounded in it. Third, bypass. You use spiritual language to avoid dealing with actual pain, calling problems lessons while refusing to face them. Each test reveals a weak spot in your field. Now, ground this. Create a reality check ritual. Once a week, ask 3 questions. 1. Is my clarity backed by evidence or just by mood? 2. Do trusted people see the same shift I sense? 3. Am I neglecting basics, rest, nutrition, honesty in the name of being advanced? If the answers wobble, that's your signal to recalibrate. Discernment isn't paranoia, it's ballast, keeping the ship steady as the wind of awareness grows stronger. Edge case check. Don't confuse intensity with truth. Some experiences feel electric, overwhelming, larger than life. That doesn't guarantee authenticity. Ask, does this leave me more functional, more compassionate, more integrated? If yes, it's signal. If it leaves you fragmented or grandiose, step back. Not every spark is fire, some are static. Zoom out for context. Every wisdom tradition built guardrails. Monastics had mentors, shamans had elders, mystics practiced under guidance. Why? Because advanced states without discernment collapse into delusion. The human mind is creative enough to dress fantasy as revelation. Only humility and testing protect you. Remember, coherence is measured not by what you feel, but by what stabilizes around you. You will meet resistance too. Some people will project their shadows onto you, accusing you of arrogance or deception. Others will be magnetized, demanding answers you can't give. Both are tests. Your task is not to defend or to inflate. It is to discern what belongs to you and what belongs to them. Their reaction is information, not identity. Before we proceed, verify, watch your own triggers. Who unsettles you? What situations pull you into reactivity instead of calling them enemies? Treat them as mirrors. Ask, what part of me still wobbles under pressure? This is shadow work, the honest admission that even in advanced states, you are still human, still learning, still integrating. Pressure tests also refine compassion. When you face your own shadows, you stop judging others for theirs. You recognize projection when you see it, because you've practiced naming it in yourself. That recognition prevents both gullibility and cynicism. You neither swallow every message whole nor dismiss every mystery as nonsense. You live in the middle ground of tested clarity. Discernment doesn't kill wonder, it protects it. It ensures that what you call synchronicity is real enough to guide decisions. It keeps your field strong enough to hold expansion without collapse. And it reminds you that shadows don't disprove your light. They reveal where it needs anchoring. So welcome the tests. Expect them. They don't mean you failed. They mean you're carrying weight worth testing. And each time you pass, each time you stay coherent under pressure, you prove that your awareness is not fragile mysticism, but embodied strength. You've walked through thresholds, tuned your field, and steadied under pressure. But none of it matters if you cannot sustain it. Advanced awareness is not a single mountaintop, it is a rhythm. Stabilization is the discipline that keeps your coherence from becoming a passing state. Without protocol, insight evaporates. With protocol, it becomes lifestyle. Shift the vantage. Think of a musician. Inspiration may spark a melody, but only practice sustains performance. The musician trains scales, warms up fingers, cares for the instrument. You are both musician and instrument. Coherence is the melody. Stabilization is the practice that ensures the song doesn't falter. Field note: stabilization operates in 3 layers: daily resets, weekly recalibrations, and seasonal renewals. Each layer reinforces the others. Daily practices keep the signal clean. Weekly structures prevent drift. Seasonal rituals anchor long-term growth. Skip one layer and coherence wobbles. Honor all 3, and your field holds steady through storms. Now, ground this daily. Begin mornings with breath and posture, even for 3 minutes. Check in at midday: shoulders, jaw, belly, release tension. Before sleep, log synchronicities and shadows noticed. These micro resets prevent static from accumulating. You don't need hours. You need consistency. Weekly, choose 1 block of solitude: an afternoon walk, a half day without devices, a quiet journaling session. Review the week's choices: which came from coherence, which from urgency. Adjust. Share space with 1 person who steadies you. Human resonance is part of stabilization. Alone, you align. With others, you entrain. Seasonal: every few months. Step back completely. Retreat to nature. Reset digital patterns. Revisit long-term vision. Ask, does my current rhythm still serve? What can be shed? Seasonal recalibration clears debris that daily habits miss. It keeps your hour channel wide, preventing stagnation disguised as stability. Edge case check. Beware perfectionism. Stabilization is not about flawless routines. It's about steady return. Some days you'll miss practices, slip into noise, forget coherence. The discipline is not never slipping. It is always returning. Like a compass, you may be jostled, but you reset to north. Zoom out for context. Communities have always honored rhythms. Sabbaths, festivals, harvest rituals, all forms of stabilization, ensuring people didn't drift too far from center. In modern life, noise has multiplied, but the principle remains. Without rhythm, awareness frays. With rhythm, awareness matures. Metrics help too. Coherence is felt, but it can also be tracked. Notice your sleep quality, your recovery from conflict, the frequency of synchronicities, the ease of decision-making. These are data points proving whether your stabilization holds. If metrics decline, recalibrate. If they rise, sustain. Remember, stabilization isn't about control. It's about partnership with rhythm. You are not chaining yourself to rigid routines. You are designing a flow that keeps your awareness spacious. Freedom doesn't come from ignoring discipline. It comes from the right discipline, freeing you to live without collapse. Stabilization is the proof of maturity. Anyone can touch advanced awareness for a moment. Few can live there. You can. Daily resets, weekly recalibrations, seasonal renewals. This is how you build not just peak states, but a steady baseline. And when coherence becomes baseline, life itself shifts from chaotic reaction to continuous dialogue with the field. You've walked through 10 thresholds of recognition. Each one has carried you deeper into coherence, deeper into awareness, and deeper into the responsibility of living steady in a noisy world. But before you step back into your day, we pause. The wind down is not an ending. It is a settling, just as a musician holds the final note long enough for silence to absorb it. You are invited to hold this recognition long enough for it to root. Notice your breath right now. No need to deepen it, no need to shape it, simply notice. The fact that you can observe it without effort is proof of coherence. This awareness does not need to strain, it does not need to prove itself. It is already here, and from this state, everything else, synchronicity, clarity, service, discernment, flows more naturally. Reflect gently what landed with you most clearly. Was it the image of tuning probability like a radio dial? Was it the realization that your nervous system is not a barrier, but a gateway? Or was it the reminder that service without ego is the highest expression of coherence? Whatever it was, let it echo. That echo is your anchor. Understand this: you don't need to remember every word. You don't need to rehearse each practice perfectly. Awareness integrates by repetition and return. Small daily resets matter more than heroic efforts. A pause before speaking, a breath before choosing, a journal entry at night. These are the stitches that weave coherence into fabric. And know this, too, you are not alone in this rhythm. Across the planet, countless others are tuning their fields at this very moment. You may never meet them, but you feel them in the way collective energy shifts. The quiet coherence you cultivate becomes part of a larger song, one that humanity is just beginning to hear. As you step away from this reflection, do so gently. Carry one practice forward, not 10, not all at once. Choose the one that feels kindest. Perhaps the 7-day log of synchronicity. Perhaps the 90-second nervous system reset. Perhaps the silent declaration that you are ready to serve without ego. One is enough. One will ripple. You are not asked to become flawless. You are asked to become steady. And in that steadiness, you become proof that coherence is not theory. It is lived reality. Every breath, every presence, every choice makes the field clearer, not just for you, but for everyone around you. So close this session softly. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your spine supporting you. Feel the breath moving, as it always does, without needing your command. This is coherence in action, life moving through you, reliably, steadily, without strain. Carry this recognition into your next conversation, your next decision, your next quiet moment alone. Let it remind you that advanced awareness is not a destination. It is the natural baseline returning, and the more you honor it, the more it honors you.